She said P. Diddy wasn't who we thought. Her testimony went ignored. The smile that greeted the flashing cameras never reached his eyes. That's what Jasmine Wilson noticed first about Sean Combs, P. Diddy as the world knew him, when she became his executive assistant in 2014. Behind the magnetic charisma that commanded rooms was something colder, something calculated, a darkness she couldn't name until it was too late. The leather of the waiting room chair stuck to Jasmine's thighs as Manhattan summer heat pressed against the windows of Bad Boy Entertainment's headquarters. 27, ambitious and armed with an MBA from Howard University, she had beaten out hundreds of applicants for this coveted interview. The receptionist's phone buzzed. "Mr. Combs will see you now." His office was a statement of power, floor to ceiling, windows overlooking New York, walls adorned with platinum records and photos alongside presidents and music legends. P. Diddy himself sat behind an imposing desk of dark mahogany, scrolling through his phone. "So," he said without looking up, "you think you can handle working for me?" "I know I can," Jasmine replied, steadier than she felt. When he finally raised his eyes to meet hers, his smile appeared, practiced, perfect, a mask slipping into place. "Everyone says that, then they last 3 months and burn out." He leaned forward. "This isn't a 9 to 5. This is your life now. I need loyalty above everything. Above everything, are we clear?" "Crystal," Jasmine said. He studied her for a long moment, then burst into laughter that transformed his face. "I like your confidence. You start Monday." Walking out of Bad Boy Entertainment with a contract in hand, Jasmine called her mother. "Mom, I got it. I'm working for P. Diddy." "Oh baby, I'm so proud. Remember what your father always said. Keep your eyes open and your integrity intact," Jasmine finished. They both fell silent, remembering her father who'd passed 2 years prior. A music journalist who'd always spoken truth about the industry, even when it cost him. He'd be so proud, her mother whispered. Jasmine didn't know then how often she'd remember those words in the coming years. The first 6 months were everything she'd dreamed. Jasmine coordinated meetings with music executives, arranged studio sessions with chart-topping artists, and traveled on private jets to events most people only saw on television. P. Diddy, who insisted she call him Sean in private, was demanding, but brilliant. His vision for his empire was nothing short of revolutionary. "See, most people think this is about music," he told her one night as they reviewed contracts at 3 a.m. "It's not. It's about legacy, building something that outlasts you." In those early days, Jasmine believed in that vision. She witnessed his generosity. College scholarships for underprivileged youth in Harlem, anonymous donations to struggling musicians, personal calls to employees going through hardships. Then came Monaco. It was a private party on a yacht during the film festival. Stars from music, film, and fashion mingled under Mediterranean stars. Jasmine was coordinating Sean's schedule, making sure the right conversations happened with the right people. She was checking tomorrow's itinerary when she accidentally opened the wrong door, a stateroom she thought was empty. Instead, she found Sean with 3 young women who looked barely 20. A white powder covered the glass table. His head snapped up, and for a split second, his eyes held something that made her blood run cold. "Get out," he said quietly. She closed the door and leaned against the wall, heart hammering. 10 minutes later, he emerged alone, straightening his tie. "Jasmine," his voice was eerily calm, "what you think you saw in there, you didn't see it." "Of course," she replied automatically. He stepped closer. "This business functions on discretion. My inner circle protects me, and I protect them. That's family. Are you family, Jasmine?" The question hung between them. She thought of her father's words, her mother's pride. The student loans this job would help her repay. "I'm family," she affirmed. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good, because people who aren't family don't last long in this world." The incidents accumulated slowly, like poison administered in small doses. There was the young singer, Tasha, who'd been promised a record deal. Jasmine found her sobbing in the bathroom after a private meeting with Sean. He said if I wanted the contract, I needed to be friendly with some investors, Tasha whispered, mascara streaming down her face. When I refused, he said I'd never work in this industry again. 3 days later, Tasha's name was blacklisted across Sean's vast network of contacts. When Jasmine questioned this, Sean's response was chilling. Loyalty test. She failed. Next. Time you question my decisions will be your last day here. Then there was DeAndre, a promising producer whose beats Sean had been using. When DeAndre asked for proper credit and compensation, he was invited to a resolution meeting. Jasmine was instructed to have security present. She watched from the doorway as 2 bodyguards held DeAndre, while Sean explained in terrifying detail what happened to people who challenged him. No physical violence occurred. Sean never dirtied his own hands, but the implied threat hung heavy in the air. Make sure our friend signs the revised contract before he leaves, Sean told Jasmine afterward, calm as if discussing lunch plans. The contract stripped DeAndre of all rights to his work for a fraction of what he was owed. When DeAndre looked at Jasmine while signing, his eyes said what his mouth couldn't. You're complicit in this. At night, alone in her apartment, Jasmine began recording everything in a journal encrypted on her laptop. Names, dates, incidents, insurance, she told herself, though against what she wasn't sure yet. You look tired, her mother commented during their weekly Sunday calls. Just busy, Jasmine replied, unable to explain how the job she'd once bragged about had become a prison of moral compromises. It happened at the annual charity gala Sean hosted for underprivileged youth. The event raised millions and generated glowing press coverage about his philanthropy. Backstage, Jasmine discovered Zoe, an 18-year-old intern, disoriented and crying in a supply closet. Her dress was torn, her eyes unfocused. He said it was just one drink, Zoe mumbled. To celebrate my scholarship, I don't remember anything after. Jasmine helped the girl to a private bathroom, cleaned her up, and called a trusted driver to take her home. Then she did something she'd never dared before. She confronted Sean. She found him charming donors in the main ballroom, the perfect host. May I have a word? She asked, professional mask firmly in place. In a quiet corner, she kept her voice low. Zoe's in bad shape. She says you gave her something. Sean's expression didn't change, but the temperature between them dropped 20 degrees. Sounds like a young girl who drank too much making excuses, he said smoothly. You know how they exaggerate for attention. She's 18, Sean, a scholarship recipient. Something shifted in his eyes. Are you recording this conversation, Jasmine? The question blindsided her. What? No. Empty your purse. I'm not. Empty it. His voice remained quiet but left no room for refusal. With shaking hands, she dumped the contents onto a nearby table. No recording device. Phone. She handed it over. He examined it, then handed it back. You've been with me 3 years now. That's longer than most. His tone was almost reflective. I've been good to you, haven't I? Trips, bonuses, access to a world most people only dream of. Yes, she admitted. Remember what I told you day one? Loyalty above everything. He straightened his bow tie in a nearby mirror. Find Zoe's parents. Offer them a 4-year scholarship for her. Full ride, any school. And a confidentiality agreement, of course. He walked away, rejoining the gala with $1 million smile, leaving Jasmine feeling hollow. That night, she made a decision. 2 weeks later, after meticulously gathering her documentation, Jasmine walked into the offices of the New York Times. A journalist named Marcus Hale, who had once written critically about Sean's business practices, listened as she carefully laid out her testimony. Evidence of financial misconduct. Witness statements from Tasha, DeAndre, and 3 others who agreed to come forward anonymously. Medical records from Zoe, whose toxicology report showed traces of substances she hadn't willingly consumed. This is serious, Marcus said finally. You understand what you're doing? Going against someone like Combs. My father was a music journalist, Jasmine interrupted. He always said the industry protects its golden geese no matter how monstrous they become behind closed doors. He died believing that someday, someone would be brave enough to speak the truth. Marcus nodded slowly. We'll need to verify everything. Independently. It could take months. I understand. And your career in the industry will be over. Jasmine thought about the young women like Zoe, the artists like DeAndre. Some prices are worth paying. 3 days later, she was fired. The official reason was corporate restructuring. The real reason came in a text from Sean himself. I know what you did. You'll regret it. The story never ran. 6 weeks after meeting with Marcus, Jasmine received a call from him, his voice tight, with controlled anger. The story's been killed from the top. But the evidence doesn't matter. Someone got to ownership. He paused. I'm sorry, Jasmine. I really am. She sat in her apartment, staring at the wall. 3 years of her life, her career, her safety, all risked for nothing. That afternoon, a courier delivered an envelope to her door. Inside was a check for $1.5 million and a non-disclosure agreement. No sender identified, but the message was clear. Jasmine tore the check into tiny pieces. 6 months, Jasmine couldn't find work in the music industry. Every application met with initial interest followed by sudden rejections. Sean's influence was far-reaching, his memory long. She moved back to her mother's house in Philadelphia, taking odd jobs to make ends meet. At night, she added to her documentation, reaching out to others who had stories similar to hers. A network of silence breakers waiting for their moment. Then came a call from an unexpected source. Lisa Murray, once Sean's right hand at Bad Boy Entertainment before Jasmine, now a powerful executive at a rival company. I've been watching what happened to you, Lisa said. I left before things got as bad as they did during your time. But I've heard things, and I believe you. They met at a quiet cafe in Philly. He's not untouchable, Lisa insisted. No one is, but the music industry protects its own. You went to mainstream media. They have too many advertising dollars and connections at stake. So it's hopeless, Jasmine asked bitterly. No, it's about strategy. Lisa slid a business card across the table. This is Catherine Chen. She's building a case not just about Sean, about systematic abuse in the industry, but she needs credible witnesses. A lawyer? Federal prosecutor. It took 3 more years. Years of depositions and threats, of midnight, calls warning her to back down, of moments when Jasmine questioned everything. But finally, in 2021, Catherine Chen brought charges not just against Sean Combs, but against a network of enablers who had protected him and others like him for decades. When Jasmine took the stand, Sean sat across the courtroom, his expression unreadable. She spoke clearly into the microphone, recounting what she had witnessed. The women, the threats, the manipulation, the facade of philanthropy covering something much darker. He told me on my first day that loyalty was above everything, she testified. What I came to understand is that loyalty meant silence. It meant complicity. It meant watching people get hurt and doing nothing. As she spoke, she noticed something shift in the courtroom, reporters scribbling furiously, jurors leaning forward. Even Sean's impeccable mask slipped for just a moment, revealing a flicker of what she'd glimpsed that first day. The cold calculation behind the charisma. During cross-examination, Sean's attorney was brutal. Ms. Wilson, isn't it true you were fired for incompetence? No. And after your termination, you attempted to extort my client? No. You were offered a settlement and refused it out of spite? I refused it because I wouldn't be silenced. The questions continued, attempting to paint her as disgruntled, as unstable, as attention-seeking. Tactics as old as time, used against women who spoke uncomfortable truths. But this time, something was different. This time, she wasn't alone. Tasha testified. DeAndre testified. Zoe, now in her 20s, testified. Former security guards broke their NDAs. Lisa Murray provided internal documents dating back a decade. The wall of protection that had surrounded Sean Combs for years began to crumble. The verdict came on a rainy Tuesday. Multiple counts of sexual misconduct, witness intimidation, financial fraud. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by a sea of reporters, Jasmine stood beside Catherine Chen and the other survivors. Someone thrust a microphone toward her. "Ms. Wilson, how do you feel about the verdict?" She thought about the young woman who had walked into Bad Boy Entertainment 7 years earlier, dazzled by proximity to power. She thought about her father's words, "Keep your eyes open and your integrity intact." "This was never about one man," she said finally. "It's about an industry that protects predators because they're profitable. It's about how many people have to be hurt before we say enough. This verdict is just the beginning." As the rain fell harder, she opened her umbrella and offered shelter to Zoe beside her. Together they walked down the courthouse steps, away from the cameras toward something that felt, cautiously, like justice. 1 year later, Jasmine sat in a recording studio, watching as a young artist laid down tracks for her debut album. As part of the settlement, Sean's assets had been liquidated, with significant portions going to his victims and to establishing Lighthouse Records, a label founded and run by survivors, dedicated to ethical practices in the music industry. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Your father would be so proud." The young artist emerged from the booth, grinning. "How was that take?" "Perfect," Jasmine said, and meant it. Later that evening, she stood on the balcony of her new apartment, watching the Brooklyn sunset. Her testimony hadn't been ignored after all. It had just needed to find the right ears, the right time, the right allies. The music industry was changing slowly but surely, not just because of her story, but because she had shown others that speaking up was possible. That truth eventually could win out over power and money and influence. She thought about how many others were still suffering in silence, in music and beyond. How many powerful men still operated with impunity, protected by systems designed to shield them. The work wasn't finished, it had barely begun. But tonight, in this moment, watching the fading light reflect off the East River, Jasmine Wilson allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. If this story shocked you, subscribe, because the next one is even more incredible. The voices that get silenced are often the ones we most need to hear. The question isn't whether there are more stories like Jasmine's out there, it's whether we'll finally be ready to listen.